Did you know that the harshest critique in your life might actually be you? That's right. The voice in your head that constantly doubts, judges, and holds you back, it's your inner critique. But here is something you might not realize. That voice isn't as truthful as it seems. Have you ever stopped to question it? To wonder if those beliefs it's echoing are even true? The surprising part is they often aren't. This inner critique is sneaky. It plants seeds of doubt, judgment, and guilt. It convinces you that you are not good enough. And before you know it, it is the root of self-sabotage, procrastination, and that nagging feeling of I will never measure up. But here is the good news. You don't have to live under its shadow. In this video, we are going to uncover the truth about your inner critique, why it distorts your reality, and most importantly, how you can take back control. I will break down what this critical voice really is, where it comes from, and how it's been holding you back. Then, I will guide you through 5 powerful steps to dismantle it, rewrite the narrative, and step into a version of yourself that feels confident and empowered. By the end of this video, you will have the tools to turn those sabotaging thoughts into a force for growth. One that pushes you forward instead of keeping you stuck. Are you ready to take that first step? Let's do this together. From my own journey, I've realized something. The inner critique is more than just a voice in your head. It is the verbal manifestation of our limiting beliefs. Think about it. These beliefs are like invisible rules we've created about ourselves, the world around us, and where we belong in it. They shape how we interpret everything. Is this an opportunity or is it an obstacle? Was that a success or did I fail? But here is the tricky part. These beliefs don't always align with what we truly want. Have you ever wondered why that is? Why do we keep listening to something that doesn't serve us? It's because deep down, these beliefs think they are protecting us. The inner critique, as harsh as it sounds, is really just fear speaking. It's trying to shield us from the unknown. I've been grappling with this myself. Recently, I felt a strong pull to leave my job and focus entirely on creating conscious content. Content that builds emotional awareness and serves as a toolkit for others. It's what I am truly passionate about. But every time I let myself dream about that leap, my inner critique shows up, loud and relentless. You don't have what it takes, it whispers. What if you fail? What if nobody cares about what you have to say? Does this sound familiar? Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you are thinking about making a big change, starting a new career, moving to a new place, or leaving a relationship that is no longer serving you. And just as you are on the edge of deciding, that voice kicks in. It warns you about everything that could go wrong. You are not good enough, it is too risky, you will regret it. It convinces you that staying where you are is the safest, maybe even the only option. But here's the thing. This voice isn't protecting us, it's keeping us stuck. The comfort zone feels safe, yes, but isn't it also where our dreams quietly fade away? Let's face it, growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the unknown, a place that feels scary but is also filled with potential. I felt that fear. The thought of leaving the security of my job for something uncertain, like fully dedicating myself to YouTube, is daunting. But when I pause and really reflect, I see something profound. Most of what my inner critique tells me isn't true. It's fear, not a reality. I remember another time I faced fear and took a leap. I left a toxic relationship that was holding me back. My inner critique told me I would never find love again, that I wasn't worthy, that I would be alone forever. But when I finally took that leap, everything changed. I found love, I rediscovered my worth, I grew in ways I never imagined. The inner critique had been lying to me all along. Here is what I've learned. The inner critique gets loudest when we are on the brink of growth. It's like an alarm screaming at us as we are about to step into something bigger, something better. But you don't have to believe everything it says. What if instead of seeing the inner critique as the enemy, you saw it as a guide? What if its words were signals, an invitation to pause, reflect, and dig deeper? Every time you faced fear and pushed through it, haven't you found strength on the other side? The inner critique may amplify your doubts, but it doesn't define you. You get to decide what is true, what serves you, and what doesn't. So what's the takeaway here? Yes, the inner critique is powerful, but it's also an opportunity. It gives us a chance to uncover the beliefs that have been holding us back and rewrite them into something that propels us forward. But how exactly does the inner critique work? Why does it show up? And how can we begin to challenge its lies? Which raises an important question. Should we listen to our inner critique? It's something we all face, isn't it? That harsh, nagging voice in our heads. Should we give it attention or should we ignore it altogether? The answer isn't as simple as yes or no. It's not about shutting the voice out completely or letting it take over. It's about how we listen to it. Because while the inner critique often distorts reality with fear and negativity, it can also carry messages worth exploring. The key is learning to separate what is helpful from what is holding you back. So when should we not listen to our inner critique? When it's unproductive or harmful. Imagine this. Your inner critique tells you are not good enough or you will never succeed. Does that sound helpful? Of course not. That's not advice, it's sabotage. This kind of voice deepens self-doubt, undermines your confidence, and stalls your growth. When the inner critique speaks this way, it's destructive, not constructive. And the best thing you can do is dismiss it entirely. When it's fear-based, what about when the inner critique says things like, don't try, you will fail, or it's too risky, stay safe? At first glance, it might seem like it's protecting you, but is it really? Or is it just fear keeping you in your comfort zone? Fear-based messages don't help you grow, they keep you stuck. If the voice is rooted in perfectionism or a fear of failure, it is time to recognize it for what it is and move forward anyway. When it's distorting reality, the inner critique is a master of exaggeration. It blows up your flaws and shrinks your strengths. It might tell you your mistakes define you or success is out of reach. But when you pause and examine these messages, you will realize something. They are not rooted in facts. They are based on fear, distortion, or even someone else's story. If what it's saying isn't logical or true, it's time to let that voice go. But let's be honest, the inner critique isn't always wrong. Sometimes it's trying to point out something useful. It just doesn't know how to say it kindly. For example, if it says this isn't your strongest area, it might be highlighting something you can improve. The trick is separating helpful insights from harsh judgmental comments. Take this example. Unhelpful, you are terrible at this. Why bother trying? Helpful, this isn't your strong point yet, but with practice you can improve. Do you see the difference? It's not about ignoring the inner critique, but reframing its message into something that encourages growth. When it signals deeper emotions. Sometimes the inner critique isn't just criticizing, it is shining a light on deeper fears or insecurities. Have you ever thought about what those critical thoughts might be trying to reveal? Maybe it's saying you are incapable or you are not creative. But what if you paused and got curious? What would you discover? When you explore these thoughts, you might realize they are not truths, they are fears, and beyond those fears lies your potential. Think about it. When was the last time you learned something new? Whether it was walking, riding a bike, reading, or traveling, you've achieved amazing things, often starting from scratch. You are more capable than your inner critique gives you credit for. Not all inner critique messages are unhelpful. Sometimes it's genuinely looking out for you. Maybe it's reminding you to prepare for an important presentation or consider a risky decision. When the inner critique is raising valid concerns, it's worth listening. But even then, don't let it paralyze you. Use it as a tool to plan, prepare, and move forward with confidence. The inner critique can be a confusing voice to navigate. It's not always right, but it's not always wrong either. The trick is knowing when to dismiss it, when to challenge it, and when to take its advice. By understanding its messages, whether they are fear-based lies or constructive feedback, you can turn this critical voice into a guide for growth, and that's where real change begins. Here are 5 techniques to challenge the inner critique's lies and start taking control of the narrative you are telling yourself. Imagine you are standing on the edge of something new, whether it's launching a creative project, preparing for a big presentation, or stepping out of your comfort zone. Suddenly, you hear it. That voice, the one that has always been there, whispering doubts, criticizing every move, and questioning your worth. It's your inner critic. But here's the thing, you don't have to let that voice dictate your life. What if you could turn the tables and listen to it without letting it control you? What if that critical voice wasn't your enemy but a guide to personal growth? Here is how you can shift your relationship with your inner critic using these 5 techniques. 1. Pause and observe, a moment of clarity. The first time you hear that critical voice, take a breath. Don't react right away. Imagine pressing pause on the conversation happening in your mind. Now, ask yourself, is this voice helpful or hurtful? Is it truly my voice, or could it be someone else's? Maybe it's the voice of your past self, your demanding teacher, a high school bully, or the constant noise from media and society. It is so easy to believe everything the inner critic says, especially when it fuels doubts about your abilities. But if you can pause for just a moment and observe, you start creating distance between yourself and the critique. You are not your thoughts, you are the observer. This simple pause can make all the difference. You start to recognize where your thoughts are coming from, filtering the ones that serve you and letting go of those that don't. You get to choose the beliefs you want to adopt and leave behind the ones from your past, society, or others that don't reflect your true potential. 2. Separate facts from fear, uncovering the truth. Now that you've paused, it's time to dig a little deeper. Ask yourself, is this voice based on evidence, or is it just fear speaking? Maybe it's saying you will fail, or you are not good enough. But is that actually true? What facts support these claims? More often than not, the inner critic exaggerates, pointing out flaws or imagining worst-case scenarios that aren't grounded in reality. It's the voice of fear, not truth. The more you separate the two, the clearer it becomes which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones don't. I have a video dedicated to fear where I show how to conquer your fears with exposure therapy. I think it would help consolidate this technique. I will leave the link in the description, so be sure to check it out. 3. Reframe its message, turning negativity into growth. Sometimes the inner critic offers something that is not entirely wrong. It might be pointing out something you could improve, but the way it delivers the message, harsh, judgmental, and discouraging. Now is your chance to reframe. Let's say the critic says you are not good enough to do this. Instead of accepting it as fact, ask yourself, where can I improve to develop the skills I need? Reframing isn't about ignoring the inner critique. It's about taking its message and transforming it into something constructive. When you shift your mindset from defeat to potential, you unlock the door to growth. 4. Challenge the critique. Speak back with confidence. Sometimes the inner critique just wouldn't let up. It keeps reminding you of your flaws, mistakes, and supposed shortcomings. This is when you need to challenge it head-on. Take a moment to counter its accusations with facts or affirmations. For instance, if the critique says you will mess this up, you might respond with, I've prepared, and I will do my best, as I always do. You don't have to accept everything the inner critique says. By challenging its assumptions and standing up for yourself, you begin to reclaim your power and self-worth. You are not defined by what the critique says. You get to define yourself. By doing this, you will transform that harsh voice into a cheerleader, guiding you towards growth. 5. Strengthen your inner cheerleader, cultivating compassion. Now picture this. In the middle of the critique's voice, you begin to hear another one, a kinder, gentler voice. This is your inner cheerleader, the one that has always been there, though often drowned out by the critique. This voice is the one that encourages you, celebrates your wins, and reminds you of your strengths. It says, you've come this far and you are capable of so much more. It's time to amplify this voice. Whenever the inner critique gets loud, balance it out with compassion. Celebrate your progress, your resilience, and your courage. Focus on your strengths and let that voice become the louder, more powerful one inside you. The inner critique is not your enemy. It's a voice, a perspective, not the ultimate truth. You don't have to listen to every word it says. By pausing, separating fact from fear, reframing its messages, challenging its assumptions, and strengthening your inner cheerleader, you can turn your inner critique from a harsh judge into a valuable guide for growth. Remember, you are not the critique. You are the observer, the challenger, and the creator of your own narrative. The next time that critical voice shows up, approach it with curiosity and empowerment. What can it teach you about your fears, your beliefs, and the areas of growth you have yet to explore? This is a milestone towards a more loving and compassionate inner voice. But don't stop here. Keep exploring your inner world. I've got something for you. I have a video that dives deeper into negative thoughts and gives you practical tools to overcome them. It's called Cognitive Distortions: How to Identify and Overcome Toxic Thoughts Patterns. I really think it's worth watching. You will find the link in the description, along with other helpful resources and tools I've put together for you to explore. Before you go, I just want to take a moment to say how much your support means to me. If you found this video helpful in any way, I would be so grateful if you could do 3 things. 1. Subscribe to my channel, where I share weekly videos with tools to help you with emotional awareness. 2. Like this video. It helps me know if this video is resonating with you. 3. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts, feedbacks, or any questions you may have. I read every single comment and I am happy to respond. It takes just a few seconds for you, but it makes a huge difference for me. It helps my content reach more people who could benefit from this emotional awareness journey, and it lets me know if what I'm doing is really making a difference in your life. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Much love.